Hi, my name is Firas and I'm going today to show you how to make this circular table. As you can see, it's have an upper circular glass panel here, and in the same time I'm also going to show you how to change and making new family types as such that allow you to save the previous setting for any table that you like. So instead of changing them manually, you can change by an individual previously made setting, which is here called as a family type. How to make that anyway. And so I'm going to close this one, and I'm going to start up a new family. So I'll go to new here, family, and I will choose the usual metric furniture. In here, I'm going to make a new reference plane. And I'm going to add from the annotation here aligned. I usually hit DI instead anyway. From the less important to the more important, as I explained in the previous tutorials, and I'm going to give it a label parameter, and I'm going to call it a radius. Flex that like 500 or so, and as you can see, it's working now. Create X extrusion. This time we go for circle. That's the center, that's the radius. Tick this one, tick this temporary dimension to make it permanent dimension, select it, and then inside the circle, during the creation mode, you can assign the radius to it, the previously made parameter, and when you close that, it's going to disappear anyway, but it's actually still working, concentrating this circle to this level, the reference plane, sorry. So let's test that again. So let's make the radius 600 and apply, and we see it's actually working. So we are in a good condition now. Let's go to the front, and in this case we need to double click and zoom extend here. I'm gonna make a new reference plane to decide the height, DI, to add another dimension here, changing this dimension to make it a label parameter. Add a parameter, I will call it height, and then while we are still in here, I will create another reference plane, and this one I'll make it just small, and I will call it again from the less important, if you noticed, to the most important, or from the new one to the old one. And I'll select this one and add a parameter, and I will call it thickness S here. I will flex both two and make this 500, and the thickness I will make it 30. And as you can see, it's worked perfectly. Now I will push the geometry to the level, lock it, and then push the lower edge to the reference plane, and then lock it again, quick flex. So the height, I'll make it 400, and see it's working here. The thickness maybe 20, and as you can see, it's worked properly. Good. Now I had a 3D circle actually flying without legs, so you need to design the legs for them. Now I'll go to the reference level again and create reference plane. This one I will make it slightly smaller this time, and in this case I need to add a level from a dimension from the new one to the old one, and I will call this, I will call it as leg thickness flex. Let's make it 100. Hit apply and hit OK. Now, technically, later on I will need another radius here for the inside circle that I'm going to prepare for the lower part of the table. So let us do it now. So I will select again from this point to this point, and this one I will give it a new parameter and I will call it inner radius. But you have to be careful when you override, I think the types, the size of this dimension are big, so I'll make them small here from the scale. So again, making too many parameters that constrain this, this is now kind of a dangerous condition that you need to decide that this dimension, this and this are all of them parameter, and you need to make a better relationship while you are allowed to enter one or two only of them instead of three. So you have to make the inner radius depending on the outer radius, and that's a decision. You can make this depending on both those two things. So as an external user that doesn't need to know lots of information of what you're doing inside, you should have decided, are you going to give the thickness, the leg thickness and the radius, and then Revit have to find out this one, which is the inner radius, or you have to decide those two things, the radiuses, and Revit will know the leg thickness. I will decide to make this decided by the user, the outer radius and the leg thickness, and I will leave this inner radius to be depending on both of them. So the inner radius in this case have to be a formula, and it will be radius. You have to be here very careful of the way you write. It should be exactly the same thing that you wrote it here, same capital letter and small letter, no mistakes, otherwise you're going to end up by incorrect thing. So minus, and this thing will be leg space and then thick, and when you hit enter, again this is not a valid. Why? Because of parameter called radius, and as you can see that I made a grammatic mistake here, a misspelling actually here, RAIDS. So I'll just follow the mistake that I did and see that's working properly. Now it's good because I made this mistake. It gives me a good opportunity to fix that. You can just come here and just you can just rename that. Just let's fix this. And as you can see, it's not allow us to modify that here directly. So go to modify, and I'll change that radius as such, and that's is now better. As you can see, it's working properly. Radius RADIUS, and same thing here. Now let's flex that again and hit apply, and you see if it's 700, what's going to happen. So now 700, and that's 100, and that's 600. Again, flex it, make it 400, and that's 4 and 103. If we change the leg thickness to 50, again it's working properly. So it's a good way to test each time, or flex each time, each parameter or group of parameters that's depending on each other to get the correct results. Now as you can see, I defined a dependent parameter, this one. It's a good way to show you, and as also I show you how to make a correction if you get a misspell in the parameter formula that you do. Anyway, in the create, back again, extrusion and radius, and this time from this same center to this inner radius. So again, take this to make it permanent, and now you have to pick the inner radius, this one, which is actually again as a formula. Hit finish, and let's flex again. So 2 circles inside each other. Let's make this 800. See, actually working properly. Now again, we need to decide the thickness, so sorry, the height and the thickness. So again to the front, and as you can see, I will make the same thing that I did for the upper one. I'll just make a reference plane like so, and I'll give it a new parameter for the height, especially for it. I'll call it lower height, and I will flex it. I'll lock it first, and then I'll flex it. So let's make this 200. Good. Now reference the plane again, and here another dimension here, and you see now it's getting crowdy. So again, change the scale to 10. It's allow you to kind of move and move that with arrows. This I will give it the same parameter, which is thickness. Then I select the lower circle and push its lower edge, and then lock it. Again, flex. I'll make the thickness 30, and everything is working perfectly. Let's flex the lower level to 100, or the lower height to 100, and yes, it's working. That's more than we need. And if we look to the table in the 3D, it's kind of again flying. I'll just reduce the radius to 600 probably, and it's working. Now what do we need actually is to draw the leg here, and it kind of not a straight rectangle, it's kind of oblique from one side. So in this case I will create another reference plane like so, and I'll give a dimension from the new one to the old one, and actually from the less important to the more important. I would not go to the left side, I will go to this side, as this is more important than that, and so on. I'll select this, and I'll give it a new parameter, and I will call it half leg thickness, and that leg thickness, so that will be half leg thickness. So again, half leg thickness will be defined by leg thickness. So I will go leg space, carefully spelling in capital letters, divided on 2. Good. And I hit apply, and then I flex. Let's make this 50. So this should be 25, working perfectly. And now I will do the same thing that I've done here to the left. So I'll go to create, quickly create a reference plane, and give it a parameter of a radius, and then repeat the scenario for the inner one. I'll make this one first, and I'll make this leg thickness. By the way, I can stop that without adding the inner thing. It's not really necessary to add them, so I'll just stop in here. I will add a third one, which is this. As you notice that the less important, sorry, should have added a reference plane. The less important reference plane, I'll usually make them shorter, just to make it easier for us to look and understand quickly the model. I'll add the same half leg thickness to it, and now I'll go back to front, and as you can see I have the 3 reference levels here. In the create I'll go extrusion. Now instead of drawing it as a line, I'll just pick, and then I select this one, I lock it, and then I'll select the lower level here, and then I lock it, and then I select this one and I lock it, and I can just stretch this here, and then I'll make TR trim here, and it's TR, it's a shortcut for trim and extend this here, cutting this one and this one as so, here and here. And the final thing, I'll draw from this endpoint to the intersection, and then TR again on the keyboard to trim. Now I'll repeat this on the other side, so pick lines, this one, and I will lock, and make sure that you lock. I'll select this one and I lock, and now when I select this, Revit will complain, telling you that there is an overlap thing here, that's that new line and this small little bit here you draw. Just first lock it and then ignore this, because we're gonna get trim and we're gonna cut all the extra going that way, so Revit will be happy after that. Same steps. Now I'll accept this, and as you can see now we get those 2 legs. Now I'll flex again, so make the radius 700, hit OK, and then you can see that they are working properly. Again, flex the leg thickness to 50 as such, and you can see that it's actually working. So I'll get them back to like 500 and 100, and I hit OK, and sorry, it should be here, and that should be 200. Yep. 100. I'm making a mess in here. Now you can see it's actually working perfectly. This is half, you know, the aligned, the angled here line. So this has been defined by the distance from here to here, which is half the total. Everything going so far so good. Back to the reference level. Now you see that they kind of, you know, if we go to the 3Ds, then extruded on this center line, and it's going that way with a default value of I think 250 or such. Anyway, let's fix this. So I will go to reference, and I will draw a new reference here and here, and I will give DI here from the upper to the middle to the lower, and I will make them equal, and I'll repeat, but from the top far to the lower one, and I will select this, and I will give it the same thickness parameter, which is 30. Now I will select this geometry, pushing, sorry, when it's been far away from each other, the handle here will be inside their center point, which is outside their geometry. So push it up until you see the highlighted reference plane, and then lock it to it, then repeat, and then lock it to it. So technically now we're getting better shapes. Now again, flex, make it 20, again 20, sorry for that, and now you can find it working properly. It's actually, let's go exaggerating with a 10. See, it's working. Put them back as 30 or 20, whatever you like, and the geometry here, it's actually working perfectly. Again, go back to the reference level, and now I'm going to repeat those steps that I did to add the reference plane here, the two, but this time to the top and to the bottom. So I'll try to do that quickly. Now I'll go to the left and double click again if you don't see anything. I forgot to make those two reference, so I'll go back here, the small one, to decide the mid as we did here, those two things here, and sorry, this line first, the reference plane. So I'll go and make a reference plane in here. Same thing here. Now go to the left and we do technically the same thing, an extrusion, and pick and lock. Trim, and then we draw a line here. Trim it again, and then another pick, another lock, pick, ignore that, lock, pick, and then ignore that again and lock, and then trim it. And as you can see that this reference plane is not working properly, so anyway, I will continue my work here, close that, trim it, and that's happening due to lack of some constraint or something. Let me try to fix this, which is this one. So I will just accept that and finish it. So what's happening here is this, it's a lower height. It should be, I made a mistake by adding this, so I'll just fix this. Make sure that each time you look, you have to flex, and when you get a collapse in one of the parameters, just don't cancel the work. Just try to analyze the problem, look to what actually causing this issue, and then fix it. So this one should be going to the lower one should be the mid or half at least. Okay, select this, the dimension, and I'll change it to half leg thickness, should be placed properly. And now, because the geometry has been drawn, if you remember, based on this line to the outside, which I gave it the incorrect reference plane, it cannot be done anymore. So Revit is actually telling you that you have to delete it or cancel the changing of the reference plane, just delete. So in this case, you have to redo actually this bit that I've done here. Just now make sure that this is half the leg and this is half the leg again. So to avoid this type of mistakes, each time you go more reference plane, you get like a similar kind of mistakes, which is good to have in here to illustrate the best way to fix them. Again, left, now again, let's flex and see. It's working again, so that's good. Let's flex the leg thickness and make it let's say 200. See, that's half. If you go to front, it's again working properly. We're seeing this again, the back two legs is not properly placed. So again, see the same thing here. That's we need to add two reference plane. So to decide where we get the extrusion, so I'll add a reference plane here, one here, and another one here. Make them equal, and then add one here and make that as thickness 30 in this case. Select this geometry, and then again the handle will be outside, so push that to the reference and then lock it, and then push this to the reference and then lock it as such. Then now you have to look and see. Let's make the thickness less, make it 20 probably, and as you can see it's all working properly. More flex, let's make it 100, and that's technically what we want as such. Now let's make the lower base here that connect all the legs. So in the reference plane again, I'll start by create an extrusion and then pick lines or pick reference plane here, and select and then lock, select and then lock as such, and then I'll select this and then lock it, this one, lock it, this one, lock it, and so on. Now zoom in and trim. It's a good idea to zoom in before you trim. Technically you're not a sniper, so otherwise you're gonna trim something like that or like that, which you don't want technically. Now this, you need to make a breakpoint here or split. So I'll cut this, that, this, this, and then I trim. Technically I break the line, as you can see, to two pieces, so I can trim that like this. Revit does not allow an overlap line or geometry. It should be a continuous like that, continuous shapes like that. I'll accept that and then look in the 3D to see it's working again, and I'll flex quickly to make this like 700. Beautiful, it's working. Now again in the front I need a new level like that. It's a kind of new reference plane. So this new reference plane will represent the level that I need, and I will add a parameter to it, and I will call it base height, for example. You can call it whatever you like, and then lock this to it, the height of the base, lock it again. I'll flex that, make it 40, hit apply, and as you see it's working perfectly. Go to 3D. Now you have the table that we was talking about, and you can flex whatever you like in it, especially those new component that you add. It's a good idea to flex the geometry before you go further, to find out what type of mistake you might have, so you can, you know, fix while you're in earlier phases. It's almost impossible not to make mistakes during the make of this type of families, and you have to keep flexing to test the model before you go further and further, where the fixing problem will be actually much more complicated. The last thing is to add the top glass panel. So kind of easy. I will just go to create extrusion, and this time I will make it as a void circle, zoom in again, and then this should be again given as an inner radius parameter. So select it and then give it inner radius. Now finish, and back to the project browser. Front, you can select this geometry, push it up to the reference plane. Again, don't go to the model, go to the reference plane and then leave it, lock it. Same thing here, to the reference plane and then lock it again. Go to 3D and you need to do a cut. Just select this external, then cut, and then select outside and then inside. Now it's cut. It's a scary thing if you put the glass in here, it's gonna fall. Now flex, I'll flex the radius to make it 600. And it's working, and I'll make the leg thickness into 200. And yes, it's working again, so put it back as it was. And now reference plane, create extrusion, this time the glass panel, again zoom, select the dimension you just added and change it into inner radius again, accept, and then go to the front. I will create a new reference plane here, and I'll add a dimension, then table parameter to it, and I'll call it glass thickness. And now select the geometry you created and then lock it. That's the upper part. The lower part should be locked to the reference plane. Careful with that. close to each other. So now you lock, flex it, let's make it 10 and hit OK. It's working good. Now you gotta select this, and in the property I'll just add a material to it. Could be glass. You can see if you like to add a parametric material to the other part of the table. I explained that in previous tutorials, so just have a look at it. Let's flex quickly. I'll just flex the radius, make it 600 again, or 550 maybe, I don't know. See, it's working. And then the leg thickness, make it 200, whatever, affecting directly the glass, so it's okay. Now technically it's working, and the last thing I need to show you is how to make new family types. So I'll go new here, and I will write, let's say 800 as a height, sorry, as a radius, with let's say 400 as a height. So radius 800 and the height 400. So just hit apply, and as you can see, you can change, you can see that's actually immediately the geometry change as such. Now another time, new, and let's go now 400 as a radius with let's say 650 as a height. I'll hit OK, then change the radius into 400, the height into 650, and I'll also increase the lower height into 300, and then hit apply, and you can see that the table immediately changed to, you know, to follow the changes that you did. And those are actually really good when you start up a new project. Let's make it easier for yourself. So I'm starting up a new Revit project. It's kind of like making a pre-setting for your table that I have in here. Anyway, back to, with Control Tab, back to my table family editor, and I'll hit load into project. Now Revit will load this table family into my empty project, as you can see. See, now you can add here a table, and in the 3D you can notice that it's actually telling you that this is an 800 by 400, and you can change that into 400 by 650, and so you can do that easily without going and change each different parameter by yourself, which is kind of faster and more professional way of working by creating family type inside of it. Well, anyway, I wish that this tutorial was